He had rules for night internet. No personal email after midnight. No shopping. No forums. No late replies that sounded brave until morning. Alex treated his devices like dogs you don't feed from the table. Firm boundaries, fewer problems. That's why the email bothered him. It wasn't flashy. No subject, no sender name. Just one small attachment and a single word in the preview. Receipt. He almost deleted it on reflex. Then curiosity cut the corner. The attachment wasn't a PDF. It was an old encrypted block, something people used when they cared about privacy. He hadn't touched his keyring in years, but his password manager still remembered the passphrase. He told himself he'd open it just to see what someone was trying to sell him, then report it and go to bed on time like a decent human. The decryption spat out a line that stopped him cold. "Hello, Alex. We found your lost files." He laughed once, the way you laugh when a stranger says your name in a crowded place and you don't want to look like it matters. Then the next line hit a nerve he didn't know was exposed. Reclaim begins at 0217. There was a link under it, something that wouldn't work on a normal browser. He shut his laptop. That was one rule. When it feels strange, break the loop with something physical. He got up, drank water, turned off the kitchen light. The clock on the stove read 2:11. 6 minutes to decide whether he was the kind of person who ignored it or the kind who found out. He was the kind who found out, but carefully. He booted into a fresh session, nothing saved, nothing trusted, and let the special browser do what it does. The link opened to a black page with a white word at the top, Archive. No branding, no menus, no ad widgets that begged for clicks. A timer counted down to 0. A page changed like a curtain drawing back. A list slid into view down the left side. All ordinary names for files he hadn't seen since college. A blurry picture from a party in a living room that smelled like beer and old couch cushions. A clip from a cheap camera pointed at a mailbox where he once stood in the cold, pretending a parcel might arrive, so he didn't have to go upstairs and apologize. Things that mattered to no one but him. He chose the harmless one, the picture, because if he could prove the site was lying, he could close the window and sleep. It wasn't lying. The photo opened full screen. The light in the corner lamp was the same muddy yellow. Someone's socked foot hung off the couch in the exact lazy angle he remembered. In the corner of the image, tiny and gray, was a number that made his stomach tighten, because it looked like a count. He clicked back. His own name appeared on the right. Not his full name, the old handle he used when he was 17 and thought the internet was a place you could be for free. First Aid 10. It felt like hearing an alias whispered through a door you'd locked. An open chat bubble pulsed in the corner. He didn't touch it. The page didn't care. A line appeared like a polite concierge speaking low. Welcome back. Watching is optional. He should have left. He told himself he would, after one more look. He picked the mailbox clip because the fear was already there, and sometimes it's gentler to press on a bruise than wait for someone else to do it. The video was short, silent, and honest. He watched his own hands fumble with the key, his shoulders hunch against December air. The way he checked inside the empty slot twice, like maybe disappointment, would reverse itself if you were stubborn. He closed the clip and noticed the list had new items with today's date. The titles didn't say where the camera was. They didn't need to. His eyes traced the room and found the angles that matched. The kitchen window over the sink. the coat hooks by the door, the blank TV screen that made the room look like it had a second, darker room inside it. He stood up. He walked to the window and put his palm against the cold glass. He told himself the sight wasn't recording him. It had tricks ready to trigger anyone who stayed. It had guesses that fit 100 rooms and felt personal, because at 2 a.m, everything feels personal. When he sat again, a banner slid across the top like a game show. Will he open the door? 2 big buttons below it that didn't belong to him. Yes and no. A small number under each, ticking upward by tiny steps. He didn't need to know what the numbers were to understand they measured other people's interest in his next move. He closed the laptop and counted to 60. He opened it. The page looked the way a room looks when you've been gone. Same furniture, slightly different air. A new line had appeared near the top, harmless on the surface. Delivery on the way. A live clock next to it, counting down. He wasn't expecting anything. He didn't order food. He didn't subscribe to monthly boxes that sent knives or coffee or mystery socks. The site apparently did. Alex went to the door and put his eye to the peephole. The hallway outside was empty, except for a discarded pizza flyer, and the shadow his building's single light made when the elevator called it. He turned both locks anyway, because fear sometimes looks like prudence, and there's no prize for guessing which is which. Back at the table, a chat message blinked. No name attached, no little avatar, just a sentence arranged to sound helpful. No signature required. Acceptance ends the session. He shut the laptop. He left it closed. He set it on the floor, face down, like you do with a book you don't want to keep reading, but don't quite dare to put away. He stood with his hands on the back of a chair and felt the old tightness climbing his shoulders. The one that came when a server hung and a client waited, and every fix made the problem feel more like a shape than a bug. He waited for the knock. It came soft, as if whoever stood there didn't want to scare him, only participate. 3 taps, evenly spaced. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just breathed and tried not to breathe loud enough to turn a guess into confirmation. The knock came again, the same way. Then a small silence that showed itself like a hand through a curtain and disappeared. He picked up his phone to call someone who would tell him to go to bed and laugh about this in the morning. He scrolled to a name he hadn't used in months, and all at once, the thought of sharing any piece of this felt like bringing it into her house, like a smell that would live in her couch. He put the phone down. He waited. A text came from an unknown number. It showed a photo of his own door from the hallway. The peephole centered like an eye, the scuff at knee height from the time the delivery guy dragged a box. The caption said the package had been left on the mat. He didn't need to look to know what color the string would be. He opened the door as far as the chain and slid the parcel into the hall with his foot, as if it were a beetle he didn't want to crush, but also didn't want inside. He shut the door. He locked it again. He walked away from it without turning his back until the room felt like a room. He didn't sleep. He waited for morning and found that waiting and fear are cousins who keep quiet company in the same chair. By daylight, the hallway was empty. No package, no card, no apology from a driver who couldn't find the right apartment and improvised. He made coffee. He drank it standing. He unplugged everything that felt like a mouth. He carried his old desktop to a shop that smelled like dust and sold it for cash, quick and clean. He wiped the laptop that had made the page and gave it to the kid next door for school. He changed his phone number because rituals shape fear into tasks you can complete. The week quieted around the edges. He checked the locks twice, but slept. He avoided screens after dark and learned the shapes of ordinary dusk again. He stopped using cups with chips because it felt like an invitation to be known. He let himself be bored in his own home until boring felt like a luxury. On Friday, a white envelope slid under the door and tapped the wood the way that kind of paper taps when it carries a bill. No return address. Inside was a single sheet printed with that cheap heat-pressed ink that melts if you touch it too hard. He expected a demand. It wasn't. It was polite. It said thank you for participating. It said the session had ended. It hoped his experience was satisfying. It used his old handle once, in lowercase, the way he used to type it in a hurry. He stood there with the paper in his hand and felt something settle that had been hovering, like a fly you stop hearing because it finds a window. He folded the page and slid it into a drawer under takeout menus he'd been meaning to throw away. He told himself the site was a trick room. You leave by not playing. He had left. When friends asked why he was suddenly a morning person, he made a joke about metabolism and turned on the radio so the room had a second voice. He walked a different way to the store. He let the week fill with errands. He forgot the exact time the knock had come and liked that loss. On Sunday, a neighbor caught him in the stairwell and said the elevator had stuck again and he should take the stairs. He said thanks and meant it. Later, as he climbed, shoes squeaking on the rubber treads, he realized he was counting his steps in threes and laughed at himself for being dramatic. He opened his door, tossed his keys into the bowl by habit, and froze. The bowl wasn't there. It stood on the far end of the counter, deliberately placed, as if to demonstrate that nothing belonged to him more than anything else did. He wasn't proud of the way he reacted. He tore the place apart like a man who thinks mess can break a spell. He checked the windows, the closets, the seam of light under the bathroom door. He found nothing. He put the bowl back by the door. He stood exactly where he had stood when he noticed it was missing, and made himself do it again. Walk in, toss keys, move on. A ritual over the scar of a ritual. He didn't see the envelope until he turned down the bed. Plain white again. He told himself it was leftover mail and opened it because not opening it would turn his head into a hallway with a door he never touched. Inside was a single photograph, not his. A man in a small office lit by screens, shoulders tense, hand on a blue mug he didn't seem to notice he had moved. The angle suggested a camera mounted above the desk. The man in the photo could have been anyone. Night shift eyes, tired mouth, but it was him. The back of the photograph had a neat printed line, not a threat, not a demand. It said, "We saved your place while you stepped away." He didn't call anyone. He put the photo in the drawer with the first polite thank you, and shut it as if shutting it could slow the idea that had started to form. Maybe the session hadn't ended. Maybe it had changed rooms. That night, he sat at the table and wrote the whole thing down. Not to publish, not to warn, to remember the order of things in a way memory doesn't keep straight when fear slices it. He wrote how the email came, how the page waited, how the knocks were kind, how the delivery arrived like a suggestion and left like a ghost. He wrote every ordinary detail that made it feel real. Steam on the kitchen window, the way the radiator clicked when it cooled, the absence that hums after you unplug a screen. He sent the document to his own email because routines comfort. Then he closed the laptop and slept on the couch because the bed felt like a stage. In the morning, his inbox had his message at the top. The subject line wasn't his. It said, Draft approved. Upload scheduled. He opened it and found his own words cleaned of their apologies, arranged into neat paragraphs, stripped of the small ugliness that would have made it private and less satisfying to read. At the bottom, in a format he didn't know but recognized by shape, a short note about reach and timing. He didn't want to believe what his eyes told him. He told himself he was tired and he had misunderstood. He closed the laptop and left the house, left the block, left the morning altogether, and walked until the city looked like a place that didn't have his door in it. He didn't come back until afternoon. When he opened the screen again, the page he had never saved opened by itself, not the black one with the list, a brighter, kinder version, a header across the top in a clean font. True Stories, tonight's feature. A thumbnail image, a kitchen table at night, a blue mug near the edge, a white envelope on wood. Under it, a title he had not written, in a voice that made him sound braver and more doomed than he'd felt. The Sight That Waited. A small counter sat in the corner like a heartbeat. It climbed by ones and twos and then tens. A chat pane scrolled with comments that looked like ordinary curiosity until he saw the question that made his stomach drop through the chair. Do you think he opens the door this time? He scrolled down and found 2 large buttons that didn't belong to him. He closed the laptop. He closed every interior door, as if he could divide his home into sections where a single danger could not fill the whole space at once. He turned the radio up and let a human voice fill the afternoon with dumb ads for car washes and mattresses. He breathed until his shoulders loosened. At dusk, the building's hallway light clicked on. He knew the sound like his own sigh. The noise reached through his door as a soft thud, a footfall, or nothing. He moved to the peephole and stopped, with his eye hovering a breath away, not touching, because some part of him had made a new rule in the last few days. Do not give any surface your face unless you have to. He stayed like that until the light timer in the hall clicked off again and the world on the other side of the door went black. The next morning, his phone buzzed with a notification from a platform he didn't use. Someone had tagged him in a post that did not know his name and knew too much. The clip began with a polite on-screen warning about sensitive content, and then cut to a still image of a kitchen at night. His kitchen. The comments moved in a flood he couldn't read fast enough. This feels real. I think I know that building. The knocks gave me chills. He should have opened the package. He did. Look, there's a second part. No, that's a fake. No, this is the one they tried to delete. A message arrived under the clip, not public, just to him, like a hand on a shoulder in a crowded room. It didn't threaten. It didn't sell. It didn't beg him to click. It said, "Don't be nervous. We'll keep your place again tonight." He put the phone on the table, face down, and watched the way light from the window edged its case. He listened for the sound the hallway light makes when it turns on. He set his keys in the bowl where they belonged, and laughed, because it felt like winning something small and private. By noon, the clip had 100,000 views. By evening, it had more. People argued about whether it was real, whether it was marketing, whether it was art. The platform placed an age gate and removed it and placed it again. The comments moved on to other things and then came back like tides. Somewhere past midnight, the apartment settled and the radiator clicked and the refrigerator hummed, and quiet organized itself into the shape he recognized from that first night. He didn't open the laptop. He didn't check his phone. He sat in the dark, with his hands on his knees, and waited to hear if he was alone. When the soft knock came, 3 gentle taps, evenly spaced, he found himself smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. Not because he was ready, not because he wanted to play, because he finally understood the part he had missed. It had never been a question about whether he would open the door. The door was only the stage. The real choice was whether he would believe that leaving the room kept him off the list. He stayed where he was. He counted his breaths. He kept still, as if stillness could be a kind of refusal. On someone else's screen, a counter ticked upward, and a title changed from scheduled to live, and a chat asked politely, like a concierge, like a friend, what people thought he would do next.